Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. Last week on the challenge, CM Punk barely survived a football player, Wes sent bananas packing, and Lolo got moody. This week is a women's elimination, so Punk is safe, so I can breathe easy during this week's episode. We're halfway through the season, I think, so we're starting to get a closer look at each contestant. This is always better than the first few episodes of a competition-based reality show. Some shows, like Surviving the Race, Master Rescue, The Amazing Road Rules, or Redneck Island always start with 50 people, and they only have a limited time with each episode to introduce them. When the numbers dwindle, we get to see the character of these people a little more closely. Most of these people are awful. It's already apparent with the champs, since we've seen them on these shows for years. But I was hoping the pros would be better humans. For the most part, they're not. They're either cliquish bullies or Lolo. Lindsay seems hot though, and she volunteers to be team captain for the pros. She's a snowboarder by day, and apparently a badass by night. We'll get to that later. The first challenge is called Out of Bounds, where you face off one-on-one by holding on to a big pole and trying to push your opponent into a moat. I like how these are games designed, so that when adults play them, they look like toddlers. Ashley M is the captain of the champs, inexplicably volunteering for the position again, even though it sent her to elimination the first time. I applaud her willingness to put all on the line for her charity, but I do question her decision-making skills. Since this is a strength game, or Braun, Sup, Strowman, and all the champs got is CT, the pros pull off the win. The actual fun doesn't really start until it's time to vote on who will be going into elimination. On the champs side, Ashley M is already in for being captain of the losing team. So in an act of chaos, Wes ties the vote up between sending Cara Maria or Ashley K in. This means Ashley K gets to choose who she'll face in elimination. She picks Ashley K because Cara Maria is a beast and would destroy her. This is where CM Punk learns a new trick. Lindsay, being the captain of the winning team, is safe from elimination and gets to pick the first person going in. Lolo is again getting the most heat due to her attitude, and it's not just from Louise anymore. She rubs everyone the wrong way when she asks for a day off from the game, especially Lindsay. So Lolo, who thinks everybody is against her now, which they are, especially Louise, gets super crybaby about it. Here's where Punk uses a strategy he learned from the champs. Tie up the vote and let the person sent in already pick who they want to fight. So the pros tie it up between Louise and Tia, allowing Lolo to finally square off against Louise. She even says that's what she wants to do. And it's clear the tension between Lolo and Louise is about to pop off. So what does she do? She picks Tia, who's about a quarter of the size of her. At elimination, the game is like a chest-high basketball game played with pads and a medicine ball. What did I say about adults looking like toddlers? Ashley K versus Ashley M ends when Ashley K accidentally scores on herself and Ashley M drains a jump shot where jump shots shouldn't exist. Kinda cool, AK was definitely the weak link. Hold on to your potatoes though, because Livid Lolo is about to take on Timid Tia. But something's been bugging Team Captain Lindsay. She can't shake the thought of Lolo asking for special treatment, and just Lolo in general, I think. So in a move that's both mind-boggling and baller as hell, at the last second, she asks host Victor if she can sub in for Tia and go direct CTLI against Lolo. The champs are dumbfounded, and Lolo seems like she's into the idea, for the first time ever. Unfortunately, the show throws up the "to be continued" nonsense, and we have to wait a week to see how this plays out. Well done for Punk, for learning how to play the mind games quickly, and double for Lindsay, for putting herself on the line for no good reason other than spite. That's good TV. I hope next week doesn't suck. In the world of professional wrestling, evolution is constant. The ropes, the rings, and the high-flying stunts are all part of a larger spectacle. A place where the boundaries of human athleticism and storytelling blur. For years, CM Punk had stood at the pinnacle of this craft, a self-made superstar whose journey from indie circuits to WWE stardom made him a symbol of resilience, rebellion, and creativity. But even for a wrestler as seasoned as Punk, there comes a time when the challenge of reinventing oneself becomes an unavoidable necessity. The challenge that lay before him wasn't just about strength or stamina. No, it was about learning something new. Something he hadn't attempted before, mastering a move that could redefine his legacy. It had been a few months since Punk had returned to wrestling after a long hiatus. The fans had been eagerly waiting for his reemergence, buzzing with excitement whenever his theme song echoed through the arena. But despite the initial joy, something felt different. Punk felt different. His matches had become predictable, his promos sharp but not as sharp as they once were, and his drive, though still evident, seemed to be lacking a bit of the fire that had once set him apart from the rest. That's when he realized he had to evolve. Wrestling was never just about the big names or the loudest reactions. It was about growth. The wrestling world was changing. There were new faces, new styles, and new moves that dazzled the crowd and left the veterans in awe. Punk knew that he needed to adapt. A conversation with his coach, a legendary figure who had trained some of the most iconic names in the business, had given him the nudge he needed. "You need to learn something new," the coach had told him. "Get uncomfortable. That's when you'll find the next chapter of your career." The thought of learning something new wasn't easy for Punk. After all, he was known for his unorthodox gritty style, his flying elbow drop, his anaconda vice submission, his straight-edge persona. He had a reputation, and every move he performed was meticulously crafted. But as he watched some of the newer wrestlers, he couldn't help but feel an urge to experiment with a move that he had never attempted, a high-flying aerial maneuver. Punk had always prided himself on being grounded, his brawling style rooted in a strong technical background. He wasn't the type to fly off the top ropes, and his agility had never been his strongest suit. Yet, watching the likes of Seth Rollins, Ricochet, and AJ Styles perform breathtaking aerial feats made Punk wonder, could he pull it off? The day of the first training session arrived, and Punk found himself in a wrestling school, standing on the canvas, staring at the ropes that seemed higher than ever. His coach was there, arms crossed, looking both skeptical and excited. "You sure you want to do this?" his coach asked with a grin, eyeing Punk's apprehension. Punk nodded. "If I'm going to make a real comeback, it's time to push my limits." They started with the basics. Punk had always been good at taking bumps, but scaling the ropes and executing aerial maneuvers were a different beast. He climbed up to the second rope, then the third, his heart racing as he steadied himself. It felt like the ground was miles away, and the stability that Punk had so often relied on felt suddenly distant. His coach shouted from below, "Remember your core. Stay tight, keep your feet under you. And when you jump, don't just fall. Propel yourself." Punk took a deep breath, adjusting his stance. He had been known for his precision in the ring, but this was new territory. He ran the steps in his mind, climbing the ropes, steadying himself and jumping into the air, all while maintaining control of his body. The thought of a mid-air flip terrified him. Could he really do it? He flipped in the air, but his timing was off, and he crash-landed awkwardly on the mat. Pain shot up through his body, but Punk didn't flinch. The mat beneath him felt unforgiving, but so did the reality of his challenge. "Get up," his coach called out, his tone firm but not unkind. That wasn't it. "Do it again." Punk grimaced but stood up. This was going to take time. And yet, there was no turning back. The challenge was not just physical. It was mental. Punk had to break through the wall of doubt in his own mind. Hours passed. The moves grew less awkward, more refined. His body began to remember the motions. The aerial stunts, the flips, the spins, they began to feel more natural, though they still didn't come easy. The precision that had served him so well in his grounded style was harder to translate to the high-flying world. But Punk was determined. The real breakthrough came when his coach suggested a variation, a twisting moonsault off the top rope. The move was more intricate, but Punk felt a spark when he imagined himself performing it. He climbed the ropes again, trying to forget the doubt that had haunted him earlier. He jumped, his body spinning mid-air, twisting to an almost perfect landing. He hit the mat with a soft thud, but for the first time, he felt something that had eluded him for months. Satisfaction. "That's it," his coach said, his voice filled with pride. "You've got it." Weeks passed, and Punk's new move began to find its place in his repertoire. At first, he practiced it in training, then in small matches, slowly incorporating it into his signature style. The move was not just a technical achievement, it was symbolic. For Punk, it represented the willingness to grow, to embrace the unknown, and to adapt to the evolution of the business. Fans began to take notice. They'd never seen this side of Punk before, the daredevil, the aerialist. And though it wasn't his bread and butter, It became a surprising weapon in his arsenal. Punk had learned a new move, but more importantly, he had learned a valuable lesson: that even the most established wrestlers have to evolve. The world of professional wrestling demands constant reinvention, and by embracing a new style, Punk had unlocked a new chapter in his career. No longer just the straight-edge savior, he was now something more. A force who had pushed himself past his limits. A man who had the courage to fail and get back up. The new move was a metaphor for everything CM Punk had ever represented. It wasn't about perfection. It was about pushing forward, even when the ground beneath you feels shaky. The challenge was never just about learning a move. It was about proving that growth, no matter how difficult, is always worth the effort. As the fans cheered, and the announcers marveled at the beauty of his newfound skill, CM Punk stood tall in the ring, smiling with a quiet satisfaction. This was just the beginning.